Alright, here we go, now that there's no loud trucks passing. I guess there's one right there, but... Alright, hey guys. You might notice it's a little bit of a different video than I usually do on this channel, and that's because this is more for my ad on Marketplace than it is for YouTube. But, this is my dad's 2004 Chevy Impala base model, and he says that it's time for it to go. So, this car he bought back in 2005 with about 20,000 miles on it. He bought it as a secondary vehicle so he could haul us kids around while my mom was at work with the other car. So they had two Chevy Impalas that looked almost identical to one another. This was the lower mileage one that he bought from the dealership. 20,000 miles on it. He's a second owner. It was in pretty decent shape when he got the car. He's pretty well known for taking care of his vehicles. It's been pampered its whole life, garage kept, all that good stuff up until the last couple of years here. Basically, it was used to haul two small children around for the better part of 2 years. And, my mom kept buying new cars every 1 or 2 years. My dad just kept this car around for the longest time till about 2014. He finally got a new car, and this car was only used for the kind of jobs that you didn't want to take a new car on. So, getting the Christmas tree and going to the, going hiking and getting muddy and all sorts of stuff like that. And, every so often driving to work in the harsh town miles, you don't want to put on a new car. So it was used for that till about 2018 when he got another new car. And this one was doomed to sit in the driveway for the last 3 or 4 years. Just only being used for trips like to the brush dump and stuff like that. So, I used it briefly in my junior year of high school because the car I had at the time didn't do very well in the snow. So I used it for about 6 months. It handles just excellent in the snow, better than any car, almost any car I've ever driven in the wintertime. It's got excellent traction, it's weighed right, it's just about the first car I'd go for if I was going to drive in the snow. Now, being a 20-some, almost 20-year-old car, 2004, so 3 years shy of 20 years, it is not going to be perfect. This car has 186-some thousand miles on it, and while a lot of those miles were, very well maintained miles, it's fallen into disrepair over the years sitting in the driveway. When I decided to start fixing it last year, it did not want to start at all, and it ended up being a voltage regulator and a battery, which I have since replaced. It also needed a new exhaust system because the resonator was rusted off and the exhaust, muffler was completely gone. So it's got a new resonator and exhaust on it. The hubcaps we have, but they got all cracked up and crappy, especially the front two. So I took them off, and I might get new ones, but honestly, I don't think it's that big of a selling point, so I don't know if I will or not. The biggest exterior damage you'll notice here is this big old dent right here. And up on the front here, there's a matching dent on the other side, but right here you'll see that the grille doesn't line up with the bumper anymore. That's from going in the ditch. In my junior year of high school. See, there's that matching dent. It doesn't really show up on camera, but it's right about right there. It kind of spun out, went over into the ditch, and the front end went into a snowbank and pushed everything back about 3 inches and buckled both sides of the fenders. It's mostly just cosmetic, but on the driver's side here, I did note in the ad on Facebook that it kind of pushed the fender here into the door. So when you open the door, it moves this like that. So it does make quite a bit of noise, but it doesn't actually hurt anything, as you can see. It just makes noise. A couple other things, daily driven damage. You got some door dings here, little tiny scuff marks, a scratch right there, little tiny stuff like that. It's got a little bit of rust, but it's not too bad. A tree fell on it a few years ago when it was parked in the driveway, so it's got these marks here and that crack right there. But all in all, there's no major damage to this car. There is a couple of scratches on the glass. You might not be able to see that on the camera, but right there's a couple of scratches on the front, on the windshield. There's a scratch right there and right there. Not sure how you're gonna get those out. Maybe buffing it. I'm not sure. I've never tried. It could use a new set of wipers. This headlight here is broken and there's water going into it, but you know, it's a lot better than what it used to be. It was they were completely yellowed before, so I went to the junkyard and replaced them. Probably the biggest selling point to this vehicle is that it doesn't burn any oil. It's got over 100,000 miles on it, almost 200,000 miles, and it doesn't use a drop of oil. It's been, the last service was done, I think last year, and it has been, the oil has been full ever since. So I'll show you that here. So under the hood we've got this 3.4 liter 3400 SFI V6 motor. Some people say these aren't very reliable. I haven't had a problem with it. My dad hasn't had a problem with it. This car hasn't had a single, you know, very large repair in its entire life. And like I said, it doesn't burn any oil. That dipstick has got all the oil on it. Wish I could show you more, but I only got 2 hands here. Battery's newer. It was actually from a truck that I wasn't using, so I took it out and put it in here because I didn't want to spend money on a new battery. But it doesn't leak anything, doesn't burn anything. The main thing that you will notice when you drive it is that the transmission does slip a bit, but it doesn't actually impact the drivability. It just sort of, it's a little, you know, you notice it. It's a little annoying, especially when you're going uphill. But it will shift and it will drive just fine. Getting to the interior, this is where probably the biggest impact on how much this car is worth is going to show. Like I said earlier, this car was used to transport me and my brother around for 10, 11, 12 years before we got a new car. So it's got its fair share of stains. My dad did not care to clean the car, hardly ever. It's got stains on the seat there, on the backs of the seats, on the roof. It's, you know, we've shampooed it several times and can't get any of those stains out. So it's not like they're like infected or whatever. They're clean. It's just they show up. There's more stains right there. There's a little bit of a, you know, cigarette ash or something. But yeah, it's got a lot of stains. I'm not gonna lie. You know, I'm not gonna lie to you. The back is really bad. There's stains pretty much all over everything. But everything has been cleaned. That's a crayon that melted. Everything has been cleaned. It just doesn't look very appealing to the eye. I think this car would make a pretty good first car for someone looking for one. It's good in town. Would I take it to the Twin Cities and back? Probably not. But you know, it's good for just tooling around town, little trips to the brush dump, stuff like that. Little tiny trips, but. Radio works, all the gauges work, AC still blows cold, heat still works, defrost, all that good stuff. Brakes are good, they do squeak because it's been sitting for a while, but they work good. Power steering still works, cruise control, lights, all that good stuff. I do have this cassette deck, factory cassette deck here, that I was planning on, or I tried to install so I could get a tape deck when I was driving it, but the anti-theft didn't want to take that radio, so I will be selling that with the car. I don't have any use for it without this car, and since, you know, it can't go in the car, it's just going to sit on the floor. Go over to the trunk. Electronic trunk opener still works. That up. I've got all the factory floor mats. I cleaned them and shampooed them as well as I could. They're all full of crap just like everything else in the car. There's the hubcaps that are all broken up from going in the ditch. Trunk's got a lot of pine needles and crap from Christmas trees over the years, but it's a lot better than what it looked like before I vacuumed it. All the stickers are still on there. All the speakers still work except one, the driver's side door speaker over there seems to be blown. There's no sound coming out of it. I've got the factory owner's manual that came with the car right here. I always think that's, you know, whenever I buy a car, I always want to make sure it's got that. So if I have a problem, I can, you know, find it in the owner's manual. This center console is new. The old one was completely destroyed. Cup holders, compartment for it, all that stuff. This car has 186,000 some odd miles on it, and it starts up like a brand new car. We'll get in here and I'll show you. So, first things first, key in the ignition. Starts right up. Exhaust is quiet, you can't hardly hear it when it's running. Power steering works, there you go. 186,371 miles. Trip odometer still works, all the gauges, temp gauges working, seatbelt light. The only gauge that doesn't work most of the time is this, the fuel gauge. It seems to be completely sporadic. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. That's probably about correct, because I know I put $5 in when it was at E earlier today. But usually it doesn't really read correctly, so once it gets past half, we just fill the tank because, you know, you don't want to risk running out of gas. So I'm going to take you on a quick little test spin here, just so you can see how it goes around, see how it handles. It could use new front shocks or springs, I don't know which one. It does get a little bouncy on rough roads, but apart from that, it is a pretty smooth car. So let me just see if I can set the camera up here. Alright, so driving down the road here. It's steady, it's smooth. Transmission's sort of shifting. See, there it finally goes into third gear. This car tracks unbelievably straight. If I let go of the wheel here, wheel's straight, car's straight. It's the alignment's perfect on it. Drives, it's very smooth for what it is, for being a base model Chevy Impala from 20 years ago. It's very smooth. It doesn't really can't really feel the road driving down it too much. It's you know, if I liked these cars, these newer cars, a lot more than I did, I would probably drive this. But you know, it's been sitting in our driveway for the last 3-4 years. Dad finally said, you know, it's time to get rid of the old girl. But, you know, it served us well for 15-20 years. Did its job, did what it was supposed to do. But yeah, power steering works excellent. I'm driving with one hand here and it's tracking straight, doing fine. Here you'll feel the transmission. There we go. So sometimes the check engine light comes on. That's because the transmission detects that it's all funky and whacked out of its mind. But all in all, you know, no engine codes. Everything works. Radio works. Not trying to get a copyright strike or anything though. So yeah, that's my dad's 2004 Chevy Impala base model 3.4. 186,000 miles. Blinkers work. Horn works. All the good stuff. There's nothing majorly wrong with this car. The reason we're selling it is simply because I don't have the space to keep this car somewhere. I've got 3 or 4 other cars that I don't need to have. Otherwise, I'd keep it. It's a reliable secondary use car. So yeah, not much else to tell about it. If you've got questions, go ahead, shoot me a message or comment on this video. Other than that, come take a look at it. It's for sale. I'm gonna try, probably start around 2,000, something like that, see what I can get for it. But really anything more than a couple $100. This car is, it's been a nice car, but really the only thing that's keeping it from being worth more is the fact that the interior is completely, you know, been abused and vandalized by children, and the transmission is is on its way out. But apart from that, it's a good car. It's a good solid car. I'd say it's first car material for someone in high school or someone just trying to get through college, or whatever. Maybe even if you're just trying to teach your son or daughter how to drive, this would be a good car for that. It's very reliable. It's very handles very well in the wintertime in the snow. So yeah, hope you enjoyed. Hope you got the information that you needed.